Sarah Chen moved through County General's hallways like a shadow, her footsteps barely audible against polished floors. Within her first week, the other nurses had nicknamed her the Mouse, and she'd heard every whispered comment about how someone so timid had no business in emergency medicine. They mocked the way she avoided eye contact, how her hands trembled slightly when Dr. Harrison barked orders, how she ate lunch alone in the supply closet rather than join their gossip sessions. What they didn't know was that Sarah's quietness wasn't weakness. It was carefully constructed armor from someone who'd seen too much, done too much, survived too much. Every time a trauma patient rolled through those doors, every scream of pain pulled her back to dusty roads in Afghanistan, to field hospitals under fire, to 19-year-old Marines calling for their mothers as she worked frantically to keep them alive. But what was about to happen would leave everyone speechless, and I promise you, this twist will change everything you thought you knew about strength. Linda, the head nurse, took particular pleasure in undermining Sarah. She assigned the worst shifts, criticized her in front of patients, once even suggesting Sarah should consider a less demanding career. Sarah absorbed it all in silence, the way she'd learned to absorb incoming mortars, the way she'd learned to keep working even when the world exploded around her. On a humid Tuesday afternoon, chaos descended. A construction accident sent 5 workers into critical condition. Every available staff member was needed. Sarah moved with quiet efficiency, anticipating needs before they were voiced, her hands steady as stone. Dr. Harrison, who usually ignored her, found himself grateful. She knew exactly which instrument he needed, exactly how to position patients, exactly when to intervene. Linda watched with barely concealed resentment. Even in crisis, she couldn't resist. "Try to keep up, Sarah. Some of us actually have emergency experience." Sarah didn't respond. She never did. She simply continued with the precision of someone who'd operated in conditions these people couldn't imagine. Then came the sound that changed everything. The distinctive thump of helicopter blades growing louder, closer. Security radios crackled urgently. A Navy helicopter was requesting permission to land on the hospital roof, an unprecedented demand. Before we continue, if this story has you gripped, hit that like button. What happens next needs to be shared. Within minutes, 4 men in dress uniforms strode into the emergency room. Their bearing unmistakable, the lead officer's eyes scanned the room and locked on Sarah. Lieutenant Commander Chen. The entire emergency room fell silent. Sarah straightened, and something shifted in her posture. The timid nurse vanished, replaced by the military officer she'd been for 12 years. "Sir," she acknowledged quietly. "Commander, we need you. Multiple casualties incoming from a training exercise gone wrong. Navy personnel. They're requesting their SEAL combat trauma specialist by name. You saved half these men's lives overseas. They trust you, Commander. We have a bird waiting." Linda's face went pale. Dr. Harrison stared in disbelief. The woman they'd dismissed, mocked, and underestimated was a decorated Navy combat surgeon, one of the few civilians trained to work with the most elite special operations forces in the world. Sarah glanced at her colleagues, seeing their shock, their dawning shame. But there was no triumph in her eyes, no satisfaction. She'd never needed their validation. She'd already proven herself in the only arena that truly mattered, where stakes were life and death. Where there was no room for ego or politics, only skill and courage. "Tell them I'm on my way," Sarah said. Then, turning to Dr. Harrison, her voice gentle but carrying authority none of them had heard before. "The patient in bed 3 needs a chest tube in the next 5 minutes, or you'll lose him." As she walked toward the door with the same quiet footsteps, the same unassuming presence, everyone understood. Strength was never about volume. Courage was never about bravado. And the quietest person in the room might just be the strongest one there. The helicopter's blades were already spinning as Sarah climbed aboard. Within minutes, they were airborne, heading toward the naval base, where wounded SEALs waited for the one person they trusted most. Sarah pulled on tactical medical gear she'd kept in her locker, just in case, transforming from civilian nurse back to the combat specialist who'd earned legendary status among special operations forces. At the base hospital, the situation was critical. An underwater demolition training exercise had gone catastrophically wrong. 3 SEALs had suffered severe decompression injuries, their conditions deteriorating rapidly. The base medical staff was competent but inexperienced with the specific trauma Sarah had treated dozens of times in war zones. She moved through the facility with absolute authority, barking orders, coordinating treatments, her hands working with the muscle memory of someone who'd performed these procedures under enemy fire. The SEALs recognized her immediately, their faces showing relief despite their pain. They'd served together in Kandahar, in Fallujah, in places whose names couldn't be spoken. They knew what she could do. 6 hours later, all 3 men were stabilized. Sarah had saved them again, just as she'd saved their brothers in arms countless times before. As she scrubbed out, the base commander approached. "Lieutenant Commander, we could use you back. Full reinstatement, your choice of assignment." Sarah shook her head, tired but certain. "I appreciate it, sir, but I'm exactly where I need to be, at County General, where they don't even know who you are. Maybe that's exactly why I need to be there." These men had the best care available, because everyone knew what they were. But civilians deserve the same dedication, the same skill, whether they know my credentials or not. She paused. "I didn't become a trauma surgeon for recognition. I did it to save lives. Doesn't matter if it's a SEAL or a construction worker." Sarah returned to County General the next morning for her scheduled shift. She walked through the same doors, put on the same scrubs, approached the same nurses' station, but everything had changed. Linda approached her, shame evident in her eyes. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. I had no idea. You shouldn't have needed to know," Sarah interrupted gently. "Everyone deserves respect, regardless of their background. I learned that in the Navy. I'm still learning it here." Dr. Harrison extended his hand. "I'd be honored to work with you, Commander. Just Sarah is fine. And we've always been working together. Now you just know a little more about who's handing you the instruments." She returned to her patients, to the quiet work of healing, to the humble service she'd chosen over glory. The helicopter had come and gone, revealing her secret, but Sarah remained unchanged. She'd always been exactly who she was, a warrior who'd learned that the greatest battles aren't always fought with weapons, and the most important victories aren't always celebrated with medals. This story reminds us that everyone around us is carrying stories we haven't heard, living lives we can't imagine. The quiet person you overlook might be the most extraordinary person you'll ever meet. If Sarah's journey moved you, if it made you reconsider how you judge others, share this with someone who needs to remember that strength doesn't announce itself. And if you've ever been underestimated, if you've carried silent burdens while others questioned your worth, know that your value doesn't depend on their recognition. You are enough, exactly as you are. Subscribe for more stories celebrating hidden heroes. Until next time, remember that the most powerful people are often the quietest ones there.